Hello, everybody. Dave Burns here from McCarthy Building Companies, presenting today here at 2020 Construction Site Summit. Big thanks to the team for having me. Look forward to spending a little time talking about construction technology, kind of the current state, and really from a technology leadership lens, what the change over the last 6 to 9 months has represented to date, and how we look at it going forward into 2021. Just as a starting point, just a little bit of background on myself. So I've been focused on construction technology within the construction industry for a little over 15 years now. Had the opportunity to serve in a lot of different roles. A systems analyst, project manager, product manager. Really got my start focused on large scale financial ERP systems within the industry. So learned a lot about the dollars and cents of how operations works. And over the course of my career have ventured more steadily towards field operations, field execution. So it's been a very interesting 15 years. I've been for 12 years of that 15 years, I've been with McCarthy. So McCarthy is a top 20 ENR builder, design builder, general contractor, self-perform, based out of St. Louis. We specialize in the healthcare markets, commercial markets, science and technology, solar infrastructure, and a number of other markets. I live and work out of the Bay Area, where I've been for roughly 17 years. My title within McCarthy today is the Director of Project Delivery and Innovation. So I want to spend a moment talking about a pretty common word, change, within the industry and within the world. I think a lot of folks have probably seen this quote before. It's a quote that's commonly referenced when you talk about innovation and how organizations evolve. I think it's also very commonly referenced when we talk about the word disruption. And so when we look again at what the last 9 months of our world has been, I think change and disruption through a number of different lenses resonates with a lot of folks. I think about my then 6-year-old about 5-6 months ago, sitting in front of his computer, trying to remote learn, and whether or not I was going to evolve and change and adapt to that situation along with him. So, you know, as we consider how us as individuals adapt and evolve and change, how our organizations evolve and change, we know one thing is for sure, is that the disruption and the change that we've seen in the last 9 months is unlike any that we've probably seen for many of us in a lifetime. So what does that mean from a construction industry sense? Over this summer, McKinsey released an article called The Next Normal in Construction that talked a lot about the drivers of change, the drivers of disruption, and what organizations needed to do to prepare for the future. So, you know, it was noted, as with this quote, that, you know, change within the industry is already happening. However, with what COVID did, in a lot of instances, it accelerated that change. So things like labor markets, infrastructure needs, safety, the sophistication of our clients. It was a topic. Emerging disruption, emerging technologies in general has been a topic within the industry. But there was a force multiplier, I would say, when COVID hit, and those things have become much more front and center for organizations and have hit some organizations in some markets pretty substantially. So how are organizations responding to this? As I move through this, I want to speak from kind of the personal context within McCarthy, within our organization, as well as kind of the perspective from a technology leadership lens. So, a few things immediately come to mind for me when we talk about organizations' response to COVID and the changes that have occurred. Communication, transparency are front and center in my mind when I think about how our leadership's behaved, how everyone within the organization has behaved amongst each other, how our technology department has changed its behaviors or enhanced its behaviors. So then from an integration standpoint, I think a recognition that with new problems, new solutions do require a significant more teamwork and collaboration in order to address. And so the levels of integration that we've seen within our organization over the last 6 months has been substantial. And then the last piece, as I mentioned, new problems needing new solutions, innovation has become front and center for our organization as we respond and adapt to what's going on. So, what does that ultimately mean? What are those examples? Over a number of months, we've stood up new ways of communicating and collaborating. So we've launched internal idea campaigns in order to rapidly share and adopt best practices. So we've sought the feedback of the folks that are closest to these challenges and closest to these problems, and recognize that we need to communicate and drive and adopt those innovations and best practices as quickly as possible. We've stood up a lot of technologies in very rapid fashion. I know that a number of organizations have stood up self-screening applications. This was a really cool success story for our organization. We had the agility to understand what we needed, choose a technology, design, build, and deploy a technology to our entire organization in less than 8 weeks. One of the fastest technology implementations and scaled implementations that I've ever seen in the 15 years I've been working. We've adopted a lot of collaboration technologies such as Teams, both from a video sense as well as just from a constant communication tool to stay in touch with all the remote workers. And from a leadership lens, the transparency and the clarity went up almost immediately. And it was with a very human touch. The photo you see there is of our CEO, was actually newly appointed CEO at the beginning of the year, being interviewed by his wife at his house, talking about responding to the change, both from an organizational standpoint and from a family standpoint. So very, very cool kind of cultural moment for a new leader in our organization. So what about kind of the technology leadership side, right? So how is technology leadership and technology focus changing in response to what's gone on? So I want to talk through this challenge from a few different lenses. So this is kind of very front of mind. It's actually very easy to talk about for me because these are things that here and now are things that we are talking about either in new ways or in enhanced ways within the organization. So I'll step through each of these and explain a little bit more about them. So we talk about, as a starting point for any effort or focus or initiative that we're going to pursue, about understanding who you have on your bus and ensuring you have those right folks and those right capabilities. So, for every organization, McCarthy is very fortunate. We invest significantly both in our technology tools as well as our people that support those tools. So for our organization, I look through the lens of who is within the team and what those capabilities are. For some organizations, they may need to assess these capabilities from the standpoint of folks that can drive technology implementations, evaluations within the business, or potentially third parties that can come in and assist when and where needed. But whether they're dedicated full-time employees or part-time or third parties, I think about a few different categories today that are really critical. So these are all individuals within our team. There's many more individuals within our team that have skill sets as well in these areas. I picked out just a few of these individuals to kind of highlight. So, I think about what are those capabilities. So the first one that comes to mind is the systems thinker. So someone who has the ability to step back, look at the full portfolio of applications in business processes and business challenges that we're facing, and understand where might be the priorities and where might be the dependencies between systems and between initiatives. We absolutely need the innovators and the creative thinkers within the organization. So perhaps challenging or questioning the way that we work and presenting or pursuing new capabilities and new opportunities. Field experience is huge for us and for our technology organization. So we know that in order to relate and advance change, we need to have people within the group who can speak the speak, who have lived in the trenches and can understand what those problems are, what those terminologies are, and really relate when presenting and trying to drive a change. In terms of specialized skills that are very critical for us right now, one of those is integrations. So having expertise within your group that really understands how systems can tie together and how should those systems tie together. And then also from a data standpoint. It's a special skill set. Not everybody understands how data works, how data is structured within applications, and how that can be brought together. So you need to have that specialized skill set within your group. So these are a few of the key capabilities that I think you really need to assess and understand before you lift off and proceed down your kind of technology journey. So the second emphasis is around focus and really a balance of focus. So understanding that there are clear and present problems that your organization faces, either at a project level, perhaps at a business unit level. Hopefully, you can identify those opportunities that have the broadest impact across the organization. So seeing those, recognizing those, aligning around those, but also understanding that there are a lot of opportunities on the horizon, which may not present themselves immediately as problems within the organization. So how do you look outside, look forward in time, understand those trends, and then introduce that into your portfolio in line with those common problems that you're seeing. So it's interesting, from a balance standpoint and from a mindset standpoint, where should you be as an organization? So I think there's two ends of the spectrum, that are highlighted here. So, you have, from an innovation standpoint, you want to promote innovation. You want to promote creative thinking. At the same time, you want to challenge the ideas that surface and ensure that they have the potential to solve a problem, and that they're not, the next flashy thing that maybe doesn't present value for your organization. On the other end of the spectrum, are the laggards, those that resist change in any form. and would rather kind of stay the course with whatever they've been doing in their roles with their processes in time. And so the sweet spot sits somewhere in the middle, right? And what's key to this, which is kind of noted there at the bottom, is kind of the cultural component of this. So as a technology leader, I should feel comfortable challenging either end of those spectrums. And at the same time, for those that are sitting across the table, recognizing that, perhaps a question on an idea as to why this might be of value, or have you considered X or Y, isn't seen as an attack on the idea, but just really building an understanding as to why that idea is in fact a good idea and it's something worth pursuing. So it's something from a balance perspective, more so from a mindset perspective, really understanding kind of where you want to live and recognizing that those two outer ends are the things that you want to try and avoid as an organization. So for us, from a balance perspective, building the foundation. So for us, a lot of focus is being put around the strategy in a few different areas. So from a portfolio management lens, really what that means is how do we partner with organizational leaders, business leaders, technology leaders to identify what are all the potential opportunities that we should be considering? What's the anticipated value of those? What's the level of effort? What's the investment? And how should we look at each of those against each other, knowing that we have limited resources and time to pursue? From a platform and application strategy perspective, so who are those partners that we want to work with, both from a platform level and also from a process or niche application level. So spending a lot of time in thinking about that in terms of what are those qualifications of those partners, both in terms of the capabilities as well as the people and the cultures of those partners. Another lens to look through this is kind of on the build versus buy strategy. So much of what McCarthy employs today falls into the buy side of that strategy, but recognizing that there are needs that are continuing to surface that may go unmet by your core partners. Considering what might be a build strategy and a build framework is pretty critical for your organization as well. From an integration standpoint, we invested in an integration platform as a service, as well as integration expertise from a people perspective a number of years ago. And so that team and those capabilities have been critical for us in order to automate and push information and maintain data integrity between systems. And segueing into that last one, really from a data strategy standpoint, which we'll talk on here in a minute, is, what data do we have? What data could we have? And how might we leverage that in order to drive value for the organization? So that's on the foundation side, and those are table stakes. You got to be thinking about that. You got to have a focus on those, and you got to have a plan for those. On the opposite end, on the innovation side, you got to maintain a focus on, that exploration, that research, that scouting of what are those potential opportunities that sit out there. So having an emerging technology strategy, considering the trends in the market and how you want to think about those, both tactically as opportunities surface, as well as strategically, where do we want to drive in our understanding of those capabilities? Research, how do you solicit ideas from the organization? How do you fund and resource the innovation opportunities that may surface? And then really having a sound process for how you facilitate innovation in the organization. There are so many changes that you can pursue, and if you don't have a process by which you organize and facilitate decisions around research, evaluations, measuring evaluations, and ultimately the point of scaling innovation, you can waste a lot of time. So from a partnerships perspective, I think the point to drive here is, again, from the standpoint of change, most of the problems that this industry faces, whether it's technology related or not, requires a significant amount of collaboration and integration in order to be successful. So from a partnerships perspective, this is mission critical for us, especially on the front end of our initiative. So business leadership, we talk about this all the time, that alignment with your business leadership. So them understanding what perhaps is a priority from their business folks, from the folks within their organization, as well as understanding it from the lens of where technology is going. You know, that partnership and that understanding of prioritization and ensuring that where you focus your investments does align with the business strategy is critical. From recognizing and partnering with early adopters and entrepreneurs. So these are the folks that are going to be the first in. They're the ones that are like, hey, let me know what opportunities we have to explore and test a technology. Not everybody is going to be like that. So you got to identify those folks within your organization that are willing to raise their hand and pursue a new opportunity when it surfaces. A big one for me is new employees. I love meeting new employees that come into our organization, especially ones that have served some time at a peer, a competitor, maybe a client or an architect or sub. Those conversations are so engaging. Sometimes we get set in our ways and we don't realize that there's something we're doing that's crazy. And new employees really have a unique lens by which to identify and ask those questions or present those suggestions. And then the last is the technology SMEs. So talking about integration, I can say there was a point in time, for a number of years where different groups within technology had the ability to operate and execute in isolation. Applications was going to do its thing. Maybe the data team was going to do its thing. Where we're at today is that, there are these various capabilities that I showcased earlier, data, applications, systems, architecture, integration. I cannot think right now of a single initiative or solution project that we're pursuing as a company in the next 12 months that doesn't involve tight collaboration and coordination amongst those teams. So what that really means is that there's a lot more coordination that needs to happen. There's a lot more complexity that you need to think about on the front end of these, identifying these problems or opportunities and how that's going to impact all of those different groups, because it is becoming more and more connected as we move forward. Partnering from an external standpoint. So again, looking outside, we know that we cannot do this alone. Any technology solution that we're pursuing, generally speaking, we can't do it alone with just our internal folks. So from a technology partner lens, from a provider lens, we do want to look at them as partners. So whether it's StructionSite or Procore or a number of partners that we work with in a number of categories of our business, we always seek to build more of a partnership relationship where we can have a dialogue around, hey, here's where we want the platform to go, and here's why that's important for us, and ultimately that's why perhaps it's important for you and your market and your future as an organization. So we pride ourselves on that. We really, really enjoy partnering with technology providers. I strongly advocate for that mindset with any provider that you're working with. Subs, architects, and clients, again, integration is becoming mission critical in everything that we do in terms of designing and building our facilities. So as we look at the technology side of that problem or opportunity, we love to get into dialogues with these various organizations up and down, vertically up and down our supply chain to understand how can we mutually benefit from an opportunity or a solution. Industry peers. So this has been just, surprisingly, one of the better things that I've observed within our industry over the last, several years is an openness and a willingness to share amongst technology leaders, both on the kind of core technology, core application side, as well as on the innovation side. So, if you're in a technology leadership role and you don't feel like you have those partnerships, reach out to myself, go out on LinkedIn. There are so many people out there that are interested in learning and sharing amongst each other. And the last piece kind of related to this is venture capital. So, there's a number of different VCs out there that are investing heavily in our industry, even some corporate venture partners, Hilti, CEMEX are a couple that come to mind. These guys are looking at these opportunities from a different lens, but at the same time, sharing knowledge and experiences with contractors like McCarthy and technology leaders like myself, it's mutually beneficial. And so that is a huge outlet for us in terms of understanding where market trends are at, what looks like an interesting technology, what are the perspectives on use cases, huge value. So the next kind of focus for us is around, speed to market. So I say here kind of building an agile mindset. I know that there's, the textbook definitions of agile and lean and scrum, all of which are important. And we're taking many, many lessons learned from those frameworks in terms of thinking about how we can get faster and respond more quickly to changes that are being, new challenges and new problems, but also just new demand for solutions. So when I say agile mindset, what comes to mind most so is just the incremental breaking down of how you evaluate, research, test, implement technology solutions and deliver value to the clients as early and as often as possible. So how do you build a more iterative approach to delivery where you're not spending a significant amount of time on analysis, design, requirements definition? How do you get to that value faster? So that's really where a focus is for our organization, especially on the technology side, is how do we speed up? Thinking about it from a product standpoint, so thinking about that product backlog, what are those user experiences or user stories, whether it's a solution, an integration, or even a service that our group is seeking to provide to the business. Thinking about it in terms of those products. What are your operational solutions as a product? And what are those user experiences that may initially start as just, a broad definition of a project, but ultimately result in a number of capabilities that we want to deliver to the business that's going to drive value. Thinking from a services lens versus a process lens. So, we will look at projects and say, okay, there's a discovery phase, there's a design phase, there's a build phase. Those are all kind of processes, but starting to think more in terms of, how you can abstract a set of key services that you can partner with and deliver to the business, such as a data readiness assessment or, a training offering. Those are taking that more service-oriented approach to delivery is something that's definitely a big focus for us. And then from a tools and technology standpoint, obviously there's a number of lean tools that facilitate better planning. When I think about technology from a speed perspective, though, I think about the technology solutions that we're deploying as part of our overall strategy. So I mentioned an integration platform as a service. So that allows us to speed up the planning, design, and execution of an integration. Master data management as a means to more rapidly onboard a system and tie it together with other systems within the portfolio. Your data warehouse and data lake strategy in terms of how data can be sucked in and ultimately reported on and visualized. So all of these technologies, as well as even your platform plays like a Procore or an Autodesk that has a focus on rapid integration opportunities within the ecosystem tools. Those are the tools that promote agility, and those are the things you should be thinking about in terms of what do you have in your portfolio that allows you to be more agile in delivering solutions to the business. So the last one is around data. So I say make data your why. So when we talk a lot about technology implementations in the industry, we talk a lot about efficiency, process efficiency. How can I save this amount of time? Risk mitigation, making our people safer, improving our quality, improving our client experiences. Data oftentimes is not at the front and center in those conversations about why we might prioritize a technology implementation, and it needs to be. So what we're focusing on more and more as we engage with our business leaders is, yes, we want to drive efficiency, we want to drive quality, we want to drive all those things, but how are we thinking about the ways in which we execute our processes, leverage our systems to capture data, and ultimately, how are we going to then use that data in order to drive value and inform decision-making down the line? So a few suggestions here, really, if you haven't started it, you gotta start building a data strategy right now. This is a journey. So, asking that question of, what data do we have? What data could we have? And how might we leverage that data now or in the future in order to improve operations, improve outcomes for our clients? Understand what the quality of that data looks like. Identify what are potentially some good wins. So for us, we knew we had some solid safety data. We knew we had some clear and present opportunities to leverage that data in order to drive value for the business. So what are those quick win opportunities where you can immediately show value for data and ultimately build a story and momentum around that. Build a foundation. So, this is about understanding what are those data sources and how do we ultimately tap into those and pull those in. And finally, understanding context. So we have a lot of discussions about data dashboards and presenting this information out to the business. What we've learned a few times over is that you have to recognize who your consumers of that data are and the context in which they work as you build and design those experiences out. So for, let's say, safety dashboarding, recognizing that a corporate or regional safety director will have very different needs or potentially different needs than a project manager, a VP of operations, or others in the organization. So make sure you have a good understanding of who those consumers are and understand that context from a design experiences standpoint. So threw a lot at you there. So summarizing here, just a number of takeaways that hopefully everybody gets out of this that you can take back and think about. The first one, taking inventory of your organization's tech talent. So look at what you got, both dedicated technology resources, perhaps folks that work within your business that are those innovators and tech savvy folks, as well as potentially some external partners, and just make sure you're filling in those holes around those capabilities. Invest in that foundational technology strategy as well as focus on innovation in the future. You need both. You got to focus on both. Like everybody else in the construction industry, collaboration, teamwork, integration is critical. So from a partnerships perspective, think about who those internal partners are that you need to partner with, both from a technology and business standpoint, as well as thinking about it through the external lens of vendors, clients, peers, competitors, and venture capital. Opportunities are increasing. The needs or the wants for technology solutions and digital solutions is rising. And we as technology leaders and as technology organizations need to find ways to speed up and maintain pace with that demand. And then finally, very simply, prioritize data as an overall element in your technology strategy and prioritization when you look at what you're going to be doing now and into the next 12 months. So I'll leave you just kind of with this quote. So again, the McKinsey article, which I definitely would recommend to anybody to read, It's definitely forward-looking, and it speaks more to the profound disruption that's on the horizon for the industry. Much of what I presented today is stepping stones that ensure that you're maintaining pace and that those disruptions don't sneak up on you and your organization now and over, the next however long that we're dealing with this situation and longer. So I want to say thank you, everybody. Hopefully that was informative. I'd love to hear from you. So here's my email. Again, big thanks to the Struction Site team for giving me the opportunity to talk with y'all today. So again, hopefully that was helpful and look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy the summit. Thanks, guys.